Ladies and gentlemen, Bitcoiners, pre-coiners, no coiners, new coiners, Swan Force members, welcome to Swan Lounge, a weekly show in which you get to hang out with some of the Swan Team and our friends from the incredibly exciting world of Bitcoin. Now, before we dive in, as always, we are giving away Jan Pritzker's amazing book, Inventing Bitcoin, for free in an effort to spread Bitcoin knowledge. You can go to swanbitcoin.com/free book to claim your copy. We have it in 3 different ebook formats and MP3, read by our friend Guy Swan over at Bitcoin Audible. All we ask is that you pay it forward by sharing the book with at least 3 friends and family. Hell, share it with enemies. I don't care who you share it with, but share it because we're out here and we're trying to spread the good word about Bitcoin and we need you to do your part. And to all the Swan Force members out there, remember that if you look in your referral dashboard, you'll find a link that you can use to send people to your Swan Force landing page so they can get the free book offer and you can get the referral credit. And if you're not signed up for Swan Force yet, I am just so disappointed in you. Yeah, I see you over there who hasn't signed up. I'm straight up disappointed. Go to swanbitcoin.com/enlist to get started. You will earn 25% of Swan's fees on their purchases for 3 years, and your referral gets $10 of free Bitcoin when they open an account with Swan. Folks, I show my referral link all the time. I have no shame. I think I've made like close to $500 worth of Bitcoin. Some of our top referrers have earned over a Bitcoin. So get out there, get a Swan Force link, share the Swan Force link. We actually have a surprise announcement regarding Swan Force that we'll get to a little bit later, so stay tuned. I'd also like to welcome anyone who is new to this show and to Swan Bitcoin. You may be asking, well, what is Swan Bitcoin? Well, I'm here to tell you, quite simply, Swan Bitcoin is the best way to accumulate Bitcoin with automatic recurring buys, with instant buys, and wires up to $10 million. We have the lowest fees in the industry for our services, up to 80% lower than Coinbase and up to 50% lower than Cash App. And we have incredibly fast onboarding. Go from 0 to Bitcoin in as little as 5 minutes. You can also pay yourself in Bitcoin. Why? Because fiat money, the US dollar, is designed to go down in value. Bitcoin has a fixed supply of 21 million coins, and this will not change. This makes Bitcoin what we call sound money. And you deserve to get paid in sound money, not dirty fiat. Simply pick a percentage of your monthly income that you want to convert and set it and forget it. Time is the most precious asset that we have, and Bitcoin respects your time. Fiat money disrespects your time. That's why we're here, folks. Also, Swan is available internationally to individuals for instant buys with wire transfers. And given the massive wave of big name investors and corporations taking large positions in Bitcoin and adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets by the day, we have launched Swan Private to meet this demand. Our concierge service for individuals and entities looking to buy at least $100,000 of Bitcoin in the next 12 months. We are here to guide you on your journey toward building generational wealth. And you can access those services at swanbitcoin.com/private. Also, make sure to watch to the end of the episode because we have a special segment called Swan Force Fridays, where we will put our guests on the spot and give them 60 seconds to give us their best Bitcoin pitch. We're also going to play a fun little game that I came up with. We don't have a title for it yet. I'm still working on it, but I think you're really going to enjoy it. I think I'm really going to enjoy it, so stay tuned for that. Oh, man, I have just wasted so much energy on this introduction. I'm all out of breath. What a waste of energy. You had to sit there and listen to it. Also a waste of energy. But you know what's not a waste of energy, folks? Bitcoin. Bitcoin is probably the highest use of energy this planet has ever seen. So you know what we're going to talk about today? We are going to talk about Bitcoin, energy usage, mining FUD, and we're going to debunk all of it. All right, almost done. Now, before I bring in our guests, you know what I'm going to say. One last waste of energy. Please hit that like button and hit subscribe. Doing so helps us get seen on YouTube and helps us grow the show so we can reach more people and help them see why Bitcoin is so special. And now, without any further ado, actually a little bit of further ado as I unmute the guests. Sorry, folks, I always do this. If I had 3 hands, it'd be a lot easier, but I don't. So it's time for Swan Lounge. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Hello. Oh, wait, where's Adam? Sorry, 1 second. Give me a second. Well, Adam's kind of with us. There he is. All right,
sorry,
folks.
guys, yeah.
No worries. We've got an all-star lineup Unfortunately, Harry canceled on us. We're sorry that we hope it's nothing major. We hope the ASICs are running smoothly. And Marty may join us. I don't know. He's with a young kid, and he's too popular for us. So we'll see. Maybe he'll join later. But that being said, I'm incredibly happy to share our guests with you. We've got Mags from MetaMesh. Sorry, I got it wrong last time. We've got Steve Barbour from Upstream Data. We've got Adam O from Upstream Data. We've got a little echo that's coming from somebody. I'm not sure who it is. We're going to figure that out and fix it. And of course, we have Camilla from Swan Bitcoin as well. Ladies and gents, how are you doing today on this fine Friday?
Doing fantastic.
Too good, man. Too bullish.
Very bullish. I'd like to just point out Steve's incredible mustache. It is glorious to behold. I wish I'd known. I would have updated the thumbnail accordingly, but I'm kind of glad that we get this little surprise for everybody. So thank you for that, Steve. What was the inspiration for this? There Will Be Blood, or
of course,
the mustache?
Yeah, I got to get the oil man look. So it's the Daniel Day-Lewis mustache.
I love it. I see Adam getting one in maybe in a month or two. We'll see.
I mean, I've been trying to grow one out, but like,
so good.
This is the
I forgot to tell you as part of the job requirements. So.
Yeah, I've been trying to get up to speed, but yeah, mine just looks dusty. It's not. Stevie gets this full like Pringles, like the guy on the Pringles can. You know, he can get that going.
You got to commit, man. You got to commit. It takes months.
Oh, wait, give me half a second. Hold on. There we go. This is the beauty of this little filter I got here. All right, I might rock a mustache this whole time. No, I can't do the mustache. I don't want to steal your thunder. All right. So before we get going on this very important topic, I was hoping that we can go around. Guests can sort of introduce themselves again, talk about their if they want, as much as they want to share about their Bitcoin story, but really kind of talk about what you do in the mining space, and then we'll kind of get into the bare bones of what Bitcoin mining is and why it's important, and then we will tackle the FUD. Mags, why don't you go first if you don't mind?
all right. Well, before the rabbit hole, I worked in carbon pricing, electricity pricing, and more so kind of economic development, fostering it, and innovation in Canada. So I thought that's a pretty good mix to combining those experiences with Bitcoin, and the perfect nexus, I do think, is mining, especially considering how much FUD we're getting. Currently, I'm a consultant, but I've also been working since about October on a mining project.
Love it. All right, who goes first, Adam or Steve? Wait, what might be fun is if, I don't know how well you guys have gotten to know each other since working together. Could be fun if you try to introduce the other. And, All right,
I'll go. Adam is this random guy that kept shilling our stuff on the internet, and I liked him a lot. And I think he's living in like Denver or something. And he's a handsome man, as you can tell. Smooth talking salesman. He's been doing great for us. So that's all I know about Adam. I don't really know anything else.
Yeah, all I know about Steve is Steve was born right next to an oil well, right there by the borehole, actually in a puddle of oil. And since then, he's just pretty much helped tons of oil and gas producers maximize their hydrocarbon production and their hydrocarbon revenue. And since then, he's, obviously saw the opportunity for mining in the oil field and capitalized on it. And, when he took a shot to try to build a company that builds the tools to do it. And I think he did an awesome job. I was a customer of his. So, and I think now all Steve does pretty much is he just goes around and starts up engines all around North America and listens to the braps. That's what I think he does. So.
I think I found a There Will Be Blood filter. What do you think?
Oh,
it kind of is.
I love it. You look like you belong in an oil field.
Like I'm one of those.
Yeah, it looks like your Bounty poster.
It actually looks like really cool.
Whoa! How'd that happen? Hey, look at that.
Every time you smile, it moves your mustache
Looney
up.
Tunes.
It's ridiculous.
All right, enough of that. All right, I think that was a good introductions. Steve, can you tell everyone a little bit about what Upstream is up to for those who are uninitiated to Bitcoin Twitter or live under a rock?
Yeah, we manufacture Bitcoin mines, portable Bitcoin mines. So we're like Mags. We're Canada based. Like I'm Canadian. We're building up here in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and shipping. So we just build portable, like, you know, you've seen them, like container mines. Ours are a little bit different than what you normally see, but they're also very, very similar. And we also deploy engines because we have to generate power. So we're you know, mining Bitcoin on this waste gas, and not just waste gas, but like stranded gas and that kind of thing.
Love it. Well, I am not a Bitcoin miner. I did try my hand at mining some shitcoins back in the day. Didn't go very well. Energy prices in Los Angeles are just they're pretty terrible. They're pretty terrible. So
not conducive to mining, eh?
No.
Hawaii might be worse, but
I leave it to the pros. So
Canada residential rates are pretty bad, but my trusty S9 is still in profit. So woo.
yeah, it's ridiculous right now.
I actually have a. Maybe I should show it to you guys. Somebody gave it to me. Camilla, I'm going to ask you to fill some airspace for approximately 2 minutes, and I'm going to grab a piece of hardware that's going to make all these folks laugh real quick. Can you do that for me?
Yeah.
Hold on. Can we guess real quick what he's going to grab? Because I think it's either a Coin Mine 1 or I don't know what, like
an S7 maybe?
Well, the 7.
Butterfly
Better be
Lab.
grabbing your dog.
He's a Butterfly Labs.
I'm hoping
Someone-
it's out.
Why don't I regale you with stories of how my dog fought a bear 2 days ago. That's right.
Oh, that's
We're
awesome.
fighting bears here in Canada, both
Yeah.
in Energy
That's a
FUD,
reason to have a
on
dog.
Twitter. And
Getting off the bear market.
it turned out she was a mom, so then I felt extra bad that he scared her
Oh my
away.
So I never actually used it.
Series B8. What is that?
It was given to me so I could use it in a sculpture eventually, like an art piece. I was going to break it down. I've never actually used it. It's a Coin Terra miner.
Avalon, a Coin Terra.
Big.
Dude,
Yeah.
I kind of like the housing of it though.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's kind of cool. It's anyway, this is some history for you.
You sure that's not profitable in this environment?
Who knows? It might be. Maybe I'll mess around this weekend. A little weekend project. So, hold on. I think we've jumped the gun here. Bitcoin mining. What the hell is Bitcoin mining? Like, you're not out there mining with picks and shovels. What does mining do? Why is it such a contentious thing? Like, can someone give us the Bitcoin mining for dummies breakdown of what Bitcoin mining is, what miners are actually doing, and perhaps why it's so important?
It's right up your alley, Adam.
I was looking at Mags, but no, Bitcoin mining is just, it's a means by which to try and guess the solution to a certain problem at a particular block height. So it's really just, guessing a whole bunch of different solutions to a problem. You could look at it that way. And the reason that it matters is because we have no other means by which to have an open and competitive way for everybody to participate and compete in new Bitcoin supply, right? So one of the ways we can kind of point merit to one person versus the other in terms of who should get the rewards of the new supply of Bitcoin is we can have them prove work, which means they can try to solve these problems and these cryptographic problems. And so attempts to solve those cryptographic problems, and if you inevitably do, if you find the correct solution, you get rewarded by the network, right? And so that's just the network's way in which of one, processing transactions and finding blocks so that we can build transactions into blocks so that people can actually utilize the network. In a way in which to get people to actually help process transactions and move the network forward, they're incentivized by the new Bitcoin supply in a really open and free competitive way, which anybody can contribute computational work. So I guess, I don't know if that was too deep, but really it's everyone trying to solve a problem to get some new Bitcoin supply, and anybody can participate. There's really not any barriers to entry other than you need to generate computational work. So hardware is required.
I like to contrast it with central banking, whereas central banking, is a top-down creation of money and distribution of money. Bitcoin mining is completely bottom-up, so it's like many people can participate, create the money, and then once they create it and mine their own coins, then they can distribute it to other people as they so choose, like in how they trade, how they transact. I find people like that that basic explanation of it.
I think that holds true.
And for me, the two key pieces where mining really contributes to the network is, for the first part, it provides network security. And secondly, the transactions get added to each block, and that's a value add there for the whole network.
Yeah, without mining,
it's funny, like we're 12 years in, and it seems like we always have to re-explain what Bitcoin mining is to people.
It's true. I wonder if it'll ever become common knowledge, right? I wonder if it'll stay like, if you think about like email, nobody really understands the back end of how email servers are running, really, right? And how they're communicating. But everyone's using email. So like, will mining stay this kind of mystic, too complicated for me to learn thing? Or will it become more, I guess, kind of commonly understood? I don't know. We'll see. But
what's interesting though, and I think we'll get into this a bit later, is with email, for example, like email servers probably take up a lot of energy. They use a lot of energy, there's a lot going on, and no one questions that, but because Bitcoin wears the energy usage on its sleeve, everyone is questioning it. And so I think until there's more widespread education into Bitcoin in terms of why Bitcoin is actually so freaking important in the world, we're going to keep seeing a lot of this FUD and all these different things pop up. All right. Camilla, I think we should quickly do the announcement of the contest. Also, we're getting a horrible echo. Let me see what it is. Sorry. There it is. Thank you, whoever muted themselves. Camilla, let's
Steve's so honest. We love Steve.
Let's 1 second. Let me bring this in. This is trying to get this graphic to show up on the screen. All right, hold on. It's there we go. We're gonna bring this in. Oh, wait, I don't want to max it. What am I doing? Why is this not cooperating with me? All right, we've got a contest, folks. We are going to be giving away, 1 second, 2 tickets. Oh, wait, no, stop. Give me 1 second, folks. We are going to be giving away, let me restart this, 2 tickets.
But 2.
Bitcoin 2021. You heard that right, folks. Hold on. There we go. Cooperate. Thank you. Okay. 2 tickets to Bitcoin 2021. Now, there are some terms and conditions. We're not just going to give them away to anybody. All right, folks. The way to enter to win one of these 2 tickets, each valued at $1,300 in fiat. If you pay in Bitcoin on their website, it's $900. But anyway, you have to be a member of Swan Force, which we talked about in the beginning. Anybody can enter Swan Force. Go to swanbitcoin.com/enlist. And here's the tricky part, although I don't think it's that tricky because you've been watching the show, you're getting tips and tricks, you've seen all of the 60-second Bitcoin pitches. You have to onboard at least 1 Bitcoiner by the end of the month, by the 30th of this month. Your new recruit needs to become a Swan customer, which means that you will see it show up in your dashboard as having made 1 referral. And then we will randomly select 2 winners out of the list of eligible people. And you might get a free ticket to Bitcoin 2021. We will be announcing those winners from the Twitter handle on the 1st of next month. And the winner will also get an email. I'm super excited about this. I want to see people out there shilling their links, recruiting new Bitcoiners. Like, think about how many people, if every single one of you watching the show goes out and recruits 1 Bitcoiner today, and then that person recruits another Bitcoin tomorrow and another one after that, we'll hit hyper Bitcoinization probably by the conference. So I'm all about this. I hope you all are excited. We're going to tweet about this a little later. All right, I'm done talking. I've been talking too much. We brought great guests on, and I'm just taking up airtime here.
I just want to say one more thing. Even if you have a ticket, you can still win another ticket. So you can use that to bring someone else if you want, or if you want to sell it, you totally can. So
sell it and buy more Bitcoin.
exactly. Good luck, guys.
I laugh because during the gold debate, the gold bug was all like, "Oh, Bitcoin's a cult," and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, he's kind of right. Here we are recruiting people, and my partner occasionally is like, "This is such a cult. You're in a cult."
Yeah, so it's a weird cult of individualism.
Look, only
which
people
is
with
anti-cult.
laser eyes are in cult, okay? And so I don't know what you're talking about. There's cult, whatever, mags. All right, we've kind of gone into the basics of Bitcoin mining, and anyone who would like to really dive down that rabbit hole and learn more, one more quick chill, go get that free book I was talking about, Jan Pritzker's Inventing Bitcoin. The mining chapter is absolutely superb. By the time you're done with it, you will understand the ins and outs of mining. Also, if you get the audiobook, you get to hear Guy Swan read aloud the number 2 to the power of 256, which is, he starts reading it, and I was like driving when I first heard it, and it goes on for like, I don't know, 5 minutes, just reading how long that number is. It's absolutely incredible. So go read that. Actually,
and he's got a sexy voice. So
oh yeah,
yeah, it's a little seductive.
I have a question for the miners here. Why is that number important? What does that mean? 2 to the power of 256 as it relates to mining?
Well, it means that the amount of energy required to break or brute force that that cryptography is like more than the energy in our solar system. Just to have a computer count to that number, 1 digit at a time would take up all the energy in our solar system. So yeah, that's why it matters, because thermodynamic law.
Bitcoin is secure. Exactly. All right, let's dive into the meat of this episode. I was reading up on Bitcoin, and I'm always reading up on Bitcoin, but I was reading up on Bitcoin energy FUD, and reading all the different articles. And what's really annoying is like all of these different articles seem to be rehashing the same points over and over again, because the points are there, they're valid, and the journalists just aren't listening to them. So here we are. Let's go through them again. I'd love to hear from the three of you, why you think Bitcoin is, mining Bitcoin is not only a valid use of energy, but it's a good use of energy. How Bitcoin mining is not inefficient. Or, if there's any FUD points that, really, really bother you, like pick the one that bothers you the most, and I'd love to hear you dispute it. If you're up for it. I see Steve smiling. Maybe he wants to go first.
I'll go first. There's a lot of FUD points that they really latch onto. Probably the most famous one, like all these, mainstream articles cite, is the transaction throughput. So they say, Bitcoin does, like 7 transactions per second. And then they say, okay, every transaction is costing like, arbitrarily like 200 megawatt hours or something crazy. And it's true. It is, if you look at it from that perspective, but that's such a weird perspective to take, because Bitcoin is settling value every block. So a better metric is how much value is being settled every, per unit energy. And actually, I did that calculation. I don't remember it off the top of my head. It was something like for every $100,000 worth of value settled, it was about $50 in energy cost. So that was actually quite good. And I think if you compare that to like the banking system, I highly doubt the banking system is costing is as cheap as that to settle that value. And then, you have to look at the banking system. It doesn't even settle value very well, because there's always, there can be issues like chargebacks, et cetera. Whereas Bitcoin is extremely reliable and it settles it very quickly. So it's not just the cost, the energy cost to settle the value, it's also the time in which it is considered settled. So that one to me is like the dumbest piece of FUD that they keep latching onto, like this whole throughput thing. Just silly. And then, obviously they get into the okay, Bitcoin miners, we can see how much energy we're using based on the hash rate and all that. And they say, okay, it's equivalent to, I don't know, Portugal or like Ireland, or like they'll just pick some random country and say, well, this is how bad Bitcoin is. It's consuming as much as this country. I mean, what's the big deal? First of all, if someone is paying for that energy, like we are, anyone mining Bitcoin, anyone using Bitcoin is paying the miner who's paying the energy provider. So someone's getting utility out of this. So it's bizarre to me that you would single out Bitcoin mining for being a waste. And these people that do that, I mean, they only do it because that, you know, they don't consider Bitcoin useful. So they say, oh, look at all this energy waste, right? But I mean, you look at anything like, you know, I don't know, I'll just pick something random. Like, I don't like soccer. I'm not a big soccer fan, or football, as a lot of people call it. I like baseball and I like hockey and stuff. So I don't go around saying that the entire world of like literally billions of people that enjoy soccer are wasting their energy enjoying soccer just because I don't like it. Like, I have no value in soccer. I wouldn't pay a dime to watch a soccer game. But that doesn't mean it's not valuable. It's just a subjective thing. So it's
those soccer moms in their vans, right?
I don't know. It's that all the logic behind this FUD is just garbage, and that's the same kind of crap we have to deal with in the oil industry. With like, oil is bad. Meanwhile, you're like drinking oil by the liter every day, like in your consumption habits. So it's just like, what are you talking about?
So many people don't realize how many petroleum products that they actually use in their daily lives. You know, it's definitely interesting.
Don't get me started.
Hey, that's why we're here. We're going to get you started. But actually, I think I'm going to surprise. Well, it was going to be a surprise. We're not going to play it just yet, but I want to tell everyone about the game that we're going to play. I need a name for it. So if you're in the audience and you have a name for this game, let me know. Maybe we'll play it again on future shows. But here's what we're going to do. As soon as we finish talking about FUD, we're going to go around in a circle, and we are going to name things that waste more energy than Bitcoin. It's going to be a lightning round. It's going to be very fast. Whoever stumbles first is out, and the last person standing wins. I don't know what you win. Maybe I'll buy your next tank of gas or something. But we're going to do something fun. Or I'll send you this Cointerra miner as the prize. But anyway, we'll do that in a bit. Mags, I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of the Bitcoin mining FUD out there.
Yeah, so I think Steve stole the settlement assurances one, which was what I was initially going to cover. One point to add, though, to Steve's point is is a lot of these budsters or authors failed to note that there are second layer solutions that, you know, in terms of, yes, there's a lot of value being transferred, but there's also a lot more transactions that are actually happening than those that we see in the blockchain. The part that I was going to cover, I guess, as a second, as a plan B, is I think it really bugs me when they say that Bitcoin is a waste and it's not useful. When I think about for example, Alex Gladstein at the Human Rights Foundation, when he talks about how useful it is globally for those that are unbanked, underbanked, that are subject to despotic or tyrannical governments, and they're using it. And there's folks in Venezuela or Argentina, which are facing significant inflation, and they're using it to protect their savings. And so I think there's a lot of value that those folks think that Bitcoin has. And so, you know, a lot of times these folks kind of, you know, they live in developed countries, they have access to banking, they're not worried about, you know, speaking out against their government or being censored. And so, you know, they're like, I can write whatever I want. I'm never going to be censored. Meanwhile, you know, others that, and you can see by country where Bitcoin adoption is highest, and there tends to be good linkages between, you know, bad kind of situations. So I think Bitcoin definitely has value, especially for certain populations in the world.
100%. It's every time I see Alex come to the rescue on one of those threads, I'm just cheering for him. He just comes in and he's just like, sir, please check your privilege just a little bit, and I don't like when people say that generally, but like, it's always justified when Alex does, and it's amazing. And, I feel honestly so lucky to be in Bitcoin, first of all, but also, because of some of the friends I've made and the people who I've gotten to get to know through Bitcoin. And it's a global movement. Like, I have friends in Venezuela, in Romania, in Germany, like all over the place, and they're all using Bitcoin for different reasons, and all of them are justified, and they all justify the energy cost, and it's a beautiful thing. So, Adam, I want to go to you next, but first, I actually wanted to bring up. Let me just bring this in. There was this amazing thread yesterday from Gaber. I can never pronounce his name, but I would urge everyone to go check it out. I'll throw it in the show notes later, and Van Eck had this this presentation, which I'm going to finish watching later. But some of the conclusions are just incredible about like Bitcoin actually producing less CO2 than other financial systems. Like, just because we can, there we go. We can see how much energy Bitcoin is using. People attack it, but in reality, we can guesstimate how much some of these other systems are using, and it's far higher. I mean, just let's do some back of the I can't talk today. Back of the napkin math. How many bank branches are there around the world? All of them have air conditioning. What are the costs to maintain those buildings, to build those buildings, to pay everyone to sit there and deny people loans? Like, these things are not costless. They have a cost, and I would argue it is far higher than the cost of Bitcoin, and far more useless. Those things. So
They're not even open 24 hours a day, or weekends. It sucks. And they're still using
weekend, those air conditioners and the HVAC system still running, drawn power.
Yep.
One of my oh wait, hold on. Let me see if there's a filter to express how I'm feeling right now. I'm sure there is. Give me half a second, folks.
Fucking Brecky and his filters.
One comment I'll add, and I don't think a lot of people in Bitcoin appreciate this, is that oil and gas, like fossil fuel industry, has been having to deal with this environmental FUD for a long time, and I would say the fossil fuel industry has lost the battle because all these like carbon taxes, all these things are being put in place, which are frankly counterproductive. And I don't know if Bitcoiners realize that we're not really equipped to win this battle either. Like, there's going to be some pretty, like, fossil fuels have, like, the fossil fuel industry has had to deal with some pretty heavy regulation around at least perceived, call it pollution and emissions. And that's gonna come to Bitcoin mining. Like, it's already like being orchestrated. So you're starting to see like. I can't remember the name of it. Like, there's a few of these like mining pools now talking about like green compliance. I don't know what they're called specifically. And then there's all these like compliance pools coming online. There's
social governance kind of.
Yeah. And there's another one that's something to do with like, it's just like a foundation where, some miners have already joined it, like HUD 8 and some other ones. And it's like this whole thing that's already happened to oil field and to like coal and fossil fuels that, they've already successfully like sort of choked the life out of a lot of this stuff. It's coming to Bitcoin. It's going to get way worse. Like, you're going to have a permit to mine Bitcoin in a few years. Like, you'll see it. So
no, I think you're right.
I think it's the biggest thing. Like, anyone out there advocating for Bitcoin, that's what we should. You should focus on the education around the energy FUD, because they're gonna leverage that to really to strap on like rules and regulations and taxes and permitting and licensing onto Bitcoin. You're gonna see it, and it's gonna hurt all of us who mine Bitcoin honestly. And the only people that'll get away with it are the ones that bribe these guys, or they do it in secret. So it's gonna get wild.
No, and to that point, I mean, Steve, I think you touched on it earlier pretty well. And I mean, it's kind of the overarching issue with this FUD, right? First and foremost, there's this kind of, I feel like there's this massive group of people out there who find them, they call themselves climate, I guess, protectionists or heroes, if you will. I don't know. But they there's this assumption that consumption is bad, right? That any electrical consumption of electricity is a bad thing. And I don't know where that came from. I don't know how that came to be. And it's not a bad thing. It's like a morally bad thing. That's what they argue, right? They argue that that there's something immoral about consuming electricity, specifically electricity that was generated by fossil fuels, right? As if you have some burden to bear, some weight to carry, like your responsibility for destroying the planet is the shame that they place on people. And then they come up with things like, environmental social governance and these self-regulating, bodies that point the finger at one another and make sure everybody's, virtue signaling the same with how they're using electricity. And I think that's the fundamental flaw, is that what really needs to be educated is, electricity consumption is amoral. Right? Electricity usage, I guess you could argue, is immoral, right? If you're using electricity to like harm somebody or something. But the actual consumption of it is not, it's not a moral ground. It's much like money, where Bitcoin is not, immoral or moral. It's just amoral. It's apolitical. It's indifferent to all those spectrums. And that argument has really muddied the waters and obfuscated the truth of how Bitcoin interoperates. Because if you have this understanding that electricity consumption isn't this immoral thing, when you then look at how Bitcoin interoperates with electricity production, power generation, and consumption, you see how great it is, right? You see that it should be celebrated, especially by those who are trying to advocate for intermittent power generation, like wind and solar. Like Bitcoin is, I think that those are economically awful ideas, but now that there's Bitcoin, like I'll take a second look, because you have this second market that you could potentially sell electricity to. Like the intermittent powers our power generation is a lot more efficient, so it helps everybody. It's a 360-degree win. And the critics are just trying to take any point about Bitcoin, any aspect about it, and flip it, right? Whether it's if it's the fact that you can't stop it, well, then criminals use it. If it's the fact that it uses a lot of energy, well, that's bad.
I just want to add a quick point to add on what Adam said about the ESG. Like because I know oil and gas well, I'll speak to oil and gas. Like if you want to start an oil company right now, unless you have all the money yourself, if you're trying to get financed, like through the traditional finance vehicles like private institutions and stuff, you have to have an amazing ESG story. Like they're not going to fund you. They're not going to finance your business and get involved with you unless you have this amazing ESG story. And what that is sort of like what you have to do at this point is you have to buy like carbon credits and stuff to offset your property. So if you have a property that's clearly going to emit some excess, I don't know, like flare gas or something, the only way they're going to fund you nowadays is if you buy into their carbon credit scam, so that part of your business plan is to offset your emissions with these carbon credits. So without getting into that whole thing, that's what we can expect for Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin miners that are trying to do like maybe new mines, like starting up, you're going to have some kind of like sexy ESG story that's a bunch of bullshit, just so that they can finance you. And of course, the money comes from nowhere; it's being printed. So these people have control on who succeeds and who doesn't, because they'll finance the people that tell the good story and that buy into their scam, and then they won't finance you if you don't buy into it. So it's already a major problem in this industry, like oil and gas. It's just coming to Bitcoin too.
Within the last week or 2 weeks, there was an ETF that filed with the SEC. They're a green crypto mining ETF, which will be buying offsets to offset the potential emissions.
It's like slapping on. It's literally like just going into the grocery store and slapping on organic stickers onto everything, right? It's like, and then everybody's all of a sudden like acts as though they're healthier. Like they walk around like, God, I feel so healthy since I started eating organic, even though we all know it's bullshit, right? That's what virtue signaling is. It's like we're in consensus of this bullshit, but we tolerate it and put up with it, and most people act by it. Like I got to imagine most meetings guys are sitting in there like, well, this is, so you're telling me if we tell them this story, then we get tax credits and we're able to go. Otherwise, like it doesn't matter that we make a whole bunch of money, that our our business plan is sound and our return looks solid. Like none of that matters. People have to realize how nonsensical this is. But yet here we are, right? Here we are talking about it, and here we are having, somebody replied to one of my tweets the other day talking about the crypto environmental committee or some shit that Coinbase and Jack Dorsey are putting together. What the fuck is happening?
Yeah,
Right?
that was one I was trying to think. Yeah.
Okay,
So-
yeah. I mean, it's
virtue
nuts, right?
signaling bad, taproot signaling good. That's what I'm taking.
Yes, absolutely, exactly. Pure signal good, virtue signal bad.
Well, I think
All right.
it's interesting too. There was a legacy financial institution, Alice Bernstein, who this week released a blog, and they shared their statistics. Here, I'll post. Maybe you can find it and put it up there. I'll post that now. But what they did do was they showed that Bitcoin, in terms of annual CO2 emissions, it's only 0.13%. Of global emissions, which is, all these FUDsters make it seem like it's a lot more significant. And when it comes to global electricity consumption, it's 0.58%. So again, not a significant amount. There are many, many more industries and applications that use a lot more than that. But I think, and that's interesting too, is because they not only tackled the E in the ESG, environmental social governance aspect, but they actually, tore down the arguments by each one. From the environmental, it's not that bad. Social, there are definitely benefits, and cryptocurrencies promote financial inclusion, and then there's a whole governance piece. And so I think while there might be regulators coming in full force against legacy industries or new industries like ours, kind of along the ESG route, there are folks that are trying to, fight back and write these good pieces. And I think the Square and what was it, ARK Invest collaboration, where they actually looked at data and made that data open sourced, so anyone can look at their modeling, based on.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt you guys.
I was just saying. Well, I mean.
Wait, hold on. I just love, by the way, how I saw both of your block clocks change at the same time. The next block, it was wonderful. It was nice.
Oh, we're both on Glasgow again.
Well, no, I mean, so Max, to your point, like I get it. Like, I mean, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong. What I hear you saying is that, there are people out there. You can even argue in some degree, Upstream Data, we're kind of out there, right? But you're saying there's people like actively working within government on the regulatory side, saying, hey, Bitcoin's good, so we should get a good rating, kind of a thing. Like we should be favorably viewed from regulators' perspectives.
Yeah, so I think you have to work. Okay, sorry, you say your piece, then I'll say my piece.
No, I was just gonna say, like, and the way I hear you, but the way I look at it is their view is flawed and abhorrent, honestly, right? I mean, it's not just flawed, it's damning. I mean, like I said, right? So why in the article did they even mention how much electricity Bitcoin uses? Because they see electricity consumption as a bad thing, right? So they're looking at it like, well, if you use this much electricity, you're worse than Bitcoin. That's bullshit. I would say that if Bitcoin only uses like, 0.25% or whatever of global electricity consumption, I'd say that's a bad thing, being it's too little. We need Bitcoin to consume more, right? Because we have a lot more wasted energy than just, 0.25%. We have a lot more, loss in between. So we're really inefficient. That's the way I look at it, right? That's where I get stuck up is I'm sitting there like, yes, I understand we could kind of play their game and even argue their points, and in their point of view, Bitcoin looks good, right? I mean, Upstream Data is a great example. We reduce, methane emissions. But I also think that they're, if we start playing by their game, they're just going to screw us later. They'll just come up with another thing that Bitcoin is bad for, and so that's why I have a hard time even giving them an inch.
Yeah. I see what you mean. Having worked in government for almost a decade, it can be a lot easier. So I think there'll be some companies that choose a certain route and others that choose another one. But I think you kind of have to speak their language to explain the value proposition. So I can understand why some folks are taking that route, to bring, I don't know if credibility is the right word, but at least to minimize the stigma, because otherwise you don't want bad regulations to be made, especially if, the critics will use kind of these common data points, or I'm not saying they're right, but these kind of arguments where look at how bad it is, it wastes so much energy. Well, there's arguments we can make around waste. There's arguments around.
No, you're definitely right. Yeah, I mean, if we don't participate, we can't argue for the truth, right? We can't educate. So you're right. We definitely need to participate.
I think there's a bit of a learning initially that needs to take place so that there isn't this major crackdown, and as horrible and annoying as it is to participate in that, before we can start to having worked in energy and the way that governments think around setting energy policy for a jurisdiction, a lot of for example, when I worked in Ontario, conservation was the number one priority. Rather, reduce the use rather than build out more generation. Ontario used to say, for every dollar that you spend in conservation, you save $4 in total on building out new infrastructure. So that mentality is how government tends to think about reducing the use and not necessarily.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you? Oh, no.
Oh, man, it was
government. If government wanted to reduce the use, they would start cutting government jobs, wouldn't they? But they don't.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's a good. No, you're right. They don't really want to. Yeah, they don't really want.
No addressing her points when she can't respond.
well, yeah. Mag's is frozen in space right now. We're just waiting for her.
1 second. Let me see if she. Are you frozen? Refresh. We'll give it a shot. Maybe.
But Mags does make some great points about I mean, her initial point of the fact that we have to participate in the discussion, right? Like if we just leave it up to them, leave it up to the government, and don't bring any clarity and push back and say, hey, actually, we're leveraging Bitcoin to do an environmental service, and it's a sustainable service because it's economically sustainable. If we don't push back, then it's like a guarantee that they're going to pass a lot of bad laws and regulation and hurt the industry in a way that they think it'll help their own pockets, or give them some kind of a moat, right? Some kind of, they get to be the gatekeeper to the industry, like Steve was talking about with licensing and permitting. And I think I will say this: I think Bitcoin, and you're right, Steve. I think you're right. I think the battle is seemingly lost in the oil and gas industry. At least I can hear it when I talk to producers, every day. And when it comes to the regulatory and their emissions profile and how that scrutiny is increasing, I mean, they're defeated. Like you can hear it in their voice, you can hear it in the way they talk. But I think Bitcoin kind of gives them a pop in their step. Like that kind of gives them this little chip of hope that, holy cow, like, okay, I can reduce my emissions profile. I can turn it into a revenue stream. I can integrate this throughout my entire, all my oil fields, and like, crap, okay, where I'm kind of back on top. I'm kind of back to being excited to produce hydrocarbons again. Where right now, I mean, they've just been so discouraged for the last 2 decades. It's and not only that, they've been vilified, right? I mean, whether it's in movies or anything that's fossil fuel, it's like, the villain, it's the bad guy. It's like, it's bad. And I don't know why the hell that happened, because the fossil fuel industry powers the world, man. I mean, every luxury I have is because of fossil fuels.
Yeah, if you look at the parallel of the fossil fuel industry, like the regulations have snuffed out all the small businesses. So basically, like mom and pop producers can only exist if they have that ESG story and they can get the funding. Like you don't see anyone bootstrapping oil and gas companies, or if you do, it's very short-lived, and they eventually have to sell their assets to someone that's better financed. I think that's sort of what we're going to see in Bitcoin mining. I mean, I think we're sort of already seeing it. Like bigger institutions get involved. Like I won't name any of them, but these guys are like buying up all the ASIC supplies short. So like these guys, these sort of middlemen are buying up all the ASIC supplies.
Wait, hold on 1 second. Sorry.
Yeah.
You want to buy my Cointerra? Okay. All right. That's cool. I'll sell it to you. Shit, man. Big miner wants to buy my old Cointerra for whatever reason. Anyway, continue. Sorry, really bad joke.
No, you're right. The middlemen are definitely.
That thing's a boat anchor, dude.
Dude, that thing's a boat anchor. Yeah, it's a doorstop.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. I was just saying, like, a lot of the stuff you see in this industry, you'll see is just coming to Bitcoin. So you know, in my view, like I'm a free market guy. Like I wouldn't say I'm exactly libertarian, but I believe in free markets, and any regulation is going to be bad. And, you know, we can hope that the regulations they do put in place around Bitcoin mining, like let's say Canadian regulation or American regulation, we can hope that it's at least, you know, they think it through, and like it's not going to just create these moats that only like the Coinbases and like the Riot blockchains, like the big companies can overcome. But I have my doubts. Like I think it's going to be pretty difficult for any business that's, you know, above board trying to mine like under the regulation to actually do so successfully, especially when Bitcoin is designed that. And of course, it's the beautiful thing about Bitcoin is that, you know, you can go fire up your Cointerra in the basement and sort of be off, you know, out of sight, out of mind, unsurveilled. And that's why, you know, I've always advocated, I really think like hobbyist mining, like home mining is going to make, it's going to become a really big thing. Like, I don't think it's had its real day yet, whereas a lot of people think it's sort of over. I don't think it's begun. I think this thing is going to actually, the more they regulate us and they put us out of business with their stupid rules, like it's going to like disperse, you know, the hash power. It's going to disperse to where, you know, it's still profitable. And it will be at home, like in the future, not quite yet, but in the future it will.
Steve, when you say regulate the mining industry, you mean off-grid mining though, right? You're not talking about on-grid?
Oh, I mean, in general, like think about it, you know, I'm not an expert on, let's say, gold mining, but like to go gold mining or even to produce oil, you need to get a permit, you need licenses, you need to stake a claim in gold mining. And oil, you got to buy the mineral rights. They auction off the land, like the mineral land, and you can buy it, things like that. So that's what I would expect in Bitcoin mining. They'll say, okay, like you have to comply under all of our rule sets. So that might be, okay, we want to know what the source of your power is. If it's like what we consider dirty power, you're going to have to pay this extra fee. They might say you're not even allowed to mine in commercial or industrial scale without a license. And now you have to comply with all our licensing regulation, pay your licensing fee every year, be subject to audits, KYC on every coin you sell, like all these things that they could easily, let's say Canada could easily implement today. And that we as Upstream Data, we'd have to comply with everything. Otherwise, I'd have to shut my business down. So that's what I mean. Like they can put any of these rules in place if they so choose. It's just I think it's a matter of time. And it's just a question of what rules will be put in place. I don't know. And I'm hoping it's not going to be destructive, because like I could even like, I'll end it here in a second, but like let's say an oil field, right now, if you're venting and flaring gas, which means you're wasting the gas, you don't have to pay a royalty on that gas. So a royalty is effectively a penalty. If you're the producer, you have to pay a royalty. That's a penalty. So you don't have to pay a royalty on that gas. But the second you sell that same gas, like if I put a Bitcoin mine on your site, you now might be subject to a royalty. So there's a backwards, the regulations aren't always like make sense. Like the regulations currently in oil and gas don't make any sense because they incentivize people to waste the gas instead of selling it. It depends on the case because of course you're making money, but it's a disincentive to like conserve the gas, that kind of thing.
So I realized I should have been wearing this miner filter the entire time. I don't know what I was doing. And the filter that I couldn't find, by the way, to loop things back to FUD, I was looking for a vampire filter because I want everyone to think about how many devices you have plugged into the wall that are doing absolutely nothing, and they're draining power and they're a waste of energy. And if you add up all of those devices all across the world, this is called the vampire, what's it called? Vampire energy?
I thought it was phantom power.
Phantom, I like vampire. I like vampire better. We're going to go with vampire. But anyway, it consumes more power than Bitcoin. So
do you mean like my block plug?
No, that's that's even more efficient than Bitcoin, I think.
Yeah, but see, Brecky, I would go, hey man, leave your shit plugged in. If you're paying the power bill, waste as much fucking electricity as you want.
So that's my point, though, is that, you know, in a world of supposedly free markets, you know, no one can or should tell you what you can use your power for. You know, we should, and I think, try to be more efficient about how we generate that power and the externalities of it. But the fact of the matter is, like, if you're willing to pay the price for the power, then you should get that power and use it for whatever you damn well please. And
right. I mean, we tread on a territory where we start denying people like really great things if we start talking about electricity being a bad thing to consume, because then it's like, okay, well, is your heart surgery valid? Right? Because I mean, trust me, the amount of electricity and the carbon freaking footprint of shipping a heart across the country, freaking airmail so that you can survive. I mean, honestly, the planet can't take it. You're going to have to die, bro. I mean, like, are we going to get there? Like, I mean, that's what we're talking about, though.
Let's play this game I want to play, because I think it will demonstrate this very well. And I think it'll be really funny, and it'll just show that different people value different things in different ways. So there's no name for the game. Audience, if you come up with a name for this, please let me know. But basically, we're going to go around lightning round style, and as quickly as we can, we're going to name things that waste energy. So, for example, Steve doesn't like football. You can use this, even though I'm saying it, he can say football. So I'll start off. We'll go clockwise to Mags, and the last person standing wins this Cointerra miner if they want to pay the shipping costs, which waste a lot of energy. So,
wait. So hold on. I'm second, right?
No, you're last.
I'm last. Okay.
This one, yeah. The Kardashians. Armies. Good one. Steve.
Dishwashers. We all have women.
Ooh, that's terrible.
Joke, guys.
I think you need to kick him out.
We're gonna send him away. We're gonna bring him back.
Oh,
Cracks me up first with the soccer thing, and now okay.
What do you have against women? Poor soccer moms.
He got an 1850s mustache, and now he's got an 1850s mindset. What can he say?
You're true.
Right. You've had too much time to think. Camilla.
Christmas lights.
Christmas
lights. Flights to Epstein Island.
Francis Coppola.
Pornography.
Oh no! What the hell, Mags? No.
All right.
Panini makers.
Okay. Camilla.
Saturday Night Live.
White House bowling alley.
Coinbase.
So YouTube influencers like Snapchat, Insta, you know how they always use those ring lights?
Ring lights.
Turns off my green light. I mean, my green light.
I'd say Twitter is a huge waste of energy. We're all just on there wasting our time and getting nowhere.
I don't know about you, man. I got 2 jobs on Twitter.
Yeah. That's true.
So I would cover that and say Facebook. Facebook is
Facebook, okay.
All right. In honor of Steve's glorious mustache, I'm going to say facial buzz razors.
Sorry, what? Oh, filters?
Sorry
like
about
a shaver.
Yeah.
Camilla, sorry about this one. I'm going to say TikTok dancing.
I'm okay with that. I don't take dance.
Video games.
I don't think anybody's going to get knocked out of this game, dude. We're all way too well prepared for for one.
Yeah.
Even Camilla's crushing it.
Well, obviously, government. That's a pretty. I have to say.
I think
that.
central banking. Central banking is the one that matters the most.
Oh, we didn't even say central banking.
Yeah, it's too obvious. It was low hanging fruit, But I mean, those guys don't fly. Those guys don't fly. In row 33C.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a surprise guest. Audience, we have a surprise guest. None other than Mr. John Vallis himself. Welcome to the show, Mr. Vallis.
Love JV.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Hey, John.
So, John.
How's it going, John?
How you doing?
We're very glad to have you. We were just playing a game that has now been titled, thank you, Wook Chewy. It is now called What's More Wasteful? And
What's more wasteful? I like it.
We basically went around in a circle and would name ridiculous things that waste more energy than Bitcoin. But we settled on central banking as the most wasteful, and no one was getting knocked out of the game. Everyone's two on their feet. So I think we gotta move on.
Well, the point is that everything is more wasteful than Bitcoin. That's the point.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh, John, preach, buddy. Oh, tell it to us. Tell it to us. Share your thoughts, my friend.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much of this has been covered already. I missed a few minutes of this, but and it goes, one of the funny things about having this conversation is that we're kind of in this mindset, and of course, as Bitcoiners, we're not, but we're addressing a global mindset that these problems are to be determined, the solutions are to be determined centrally, right? So like we have to figure out, or some institution or body has to figure out this problem. Of course, I think we would all agree that's not the way that it should be. But of course, we lack at this point the mechanisms to receive the proper signals from the market to properly, understand and then react to market dynamics, what's happening in the market. But one of the things with the energy FUD, and I love what everyone on this panel is doing in terms of their work, and I think it's great. But all this, the people that FUD it don't seem to appreciate the response just then, which was anything other than, and everything wastes more energy than Bitcoin. And basically my premise for that comes from two places. One, when people say Bitcoin is bad for the environment, what does that even mean? Shouldn't we be talking about our environment, like the relationship between us and the environment we're in, right? Not just an earth-centered approach, because anything we do, any action is technically bad for the environment, right? You step on some grass and you kill a worm, and that's bad for the environment if our locus of perspective is purely the earth, but it's not, right? It's human flourishing in relation to the earth. And I'm not, I consider myself an environmentalist. Like I care deeply about the earth, but I want my concerns about the earth and everyone's concerns about the earth to be able to be communicated so that we can understand what they are and flourish. But the main point here is that I think the real question is, is the consumption of resources, or are the consumption of resources worthwhile? That's the question we should be asking, and worthwhile in terms of, I think, broadly speaking, human flourishing. And I know that's not super specific, but I think we can all appreciate what that means. So is the consumption of resources worthwhile for human flourishing? That's a much better way to frame this argument. I don't think any of the energy fudsters or environmental fudsters are framing it that way. And so then it begs the question, well, what is worthwhile? How do we assess that? And I think one of the, probably the best way to assess that is what is the benefit of the action? So if we consume resources, how much benefit do we get from the consumption of those resources? And then you kind of come to a pretty simple understanding that the thing that's most worthwhile is the consumption of resources that nets the greatest gain for the perpetuation of human flourishing. That's pretty much the most worthwhile or that's the lens through which you should judge how worthwhile our consumption of resources are. And to bring this to Bitcoin, I think it's a fact that money is the most useful good, let's say. Now, I know we all share critiques of the current monetary system, but it's the most saleable good. It's the other half of every transaction. It's the most useful good in an economy. And so if we're dealing with money here, and not only just dealing with money, but dealing in money that can be possibly infinitely, but forever is a long time. So we'll just say perpetually, as long as we can tell, recycled. So the consumption of the resources that went into the production of that money is worthwhile in perpetuity because that resource can be perpetually recycled. Then the cost benefit analysis of something like that has those two attributes, the most useful good in an economy and is infinitely recyclable, in my mind has the most attractive or the best cost benefit analysis of any possible good. So when I look at it through that lens, literally, if we're talking about the consumption of resources being worthwhile, literally every single other good produced in an economy, and the critical point here is that is on a Bitcoin standard where Bitcoin is the money, is more wasteful than that money. So we should be looking at whether or not the energy devoted, or the resources rather devoted to the production of cameras, fences, houses, iPhones, we should be looking at all that, what the cost benefit analysis of the consumption of the resources that go into those products prior to finding our way down to Bitcoin. because it is, in my mind, by definition, the most useful, the most efficient, the most useful, the most valuable, the most beneficial reward for consuming this planet's resources. And what I think it nets is the perpetuation and the amplification of human flourishing. And after all, I think that's what we should be judging. Not just does this thing negatively impact an area of the planet, but does it facilitate our perpetuation as a species and the flourishing of our existence as a species on this earth in perpetuity and more over time. And I think that's what a good like Bitcoin does. And so that's why I think everything else is more wasteful than it.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point there, John, in terms of, oftentimes it's possible that we kind of forfeit or waive the argument that Bitcoin is useful, right? That the resource consumption is not just going to nothing, right? That there's actually utility being provided, incredible utility, right? I'd argue, like you, the most utility. If we jump to, which oftentimes I do, right, is I jump to, well, hey, look, like it's not as though when you plug in a Bitcoin miner, another unit of electricity needs to be produced. Typically Bitcoin miners are going out and they're going and consuming where waste exists, right? Where either waste or excess energy exists, because for them they're incentivized to. And so oftentimes, when they say like, Bitcoin consumes this much electricity, it's like, yeah, well, it's not like that much more electricity got produced because of Bitcoin. Bitcoin consumes typically a lot of waste in between. And when we go to that argument, oftentimes we kind of forfeit what you're saying, which is like, hey, even if we did have to, turn on more electricity every time somebody plugged in a Bitcoin miner, it would be worth it, right? Because the marginal utility of providing, hash rate to the Bitcoin network is the most efficient use of resources for, perpetuating the human experience in the human environment. So yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, it's oftentimes kind of gets lost. Maybe it's a little cerebral, I guess. But you're right. It's absolutely, it's likely the most efficient utility from the result of consuming resources.
Yeah, I think of it as like a human flourishing to resource consumption ratio. And I think
exactly
Bitcoin has the highest of any possible thing. And again, if our perspective here is human flourishing and not just the preservation of the natural world, which again, huge fan of, then that's the metric in my mind, or that's the lens through which we should be viewing this stuff. So I agree, like even if, and I love all the feel-good stories about Bitcoin using renewables or clean energy or whatever, but even if it was pure hydrocarbon derived energy for the rest of time, if the benefit is what we've just articulated that it is, near infinite or a really, really large number, then the relative difference of the cost doesn't have that much of an effect, right? Let's say the cost, just to use a number, is 100. Let's say when we're using hydrocarbons versus 10 if we're using renewables, just hypothetically. If the numerator is this gigantic number in terms of what Bitcoin represents in terms of its benefit, then it doesn't. I don't think there's a material difference. So
I agree.
And again, like I'm not saying don't work on it, but I'm saying everything else is lower hanging fruit because it's human flourishing to resource consumption. Its cost is lower than Bitcoin's, or its cost to benefit is higher.
I think you raise a good point too, and I'm thinking about it. So traditionally, how we view which country, has been the top. At first, it used to be all about like GDP. But when you look at that, that's not the only thing that makes a country the most attractive place to live in, right? You have to add in other things like how happy are people there, right? The health and well-being. Is it secure? Like, do people feel safe there? Is there a measure of innovation? What's the culture like, right? So I think it's really interesting the way that you raise this argument to a different level where it's not, it's not just about energy use, but what does it contribute to society? And for sure, it contributes things like censorship resistance, right? And financial empowerment. And those are things that we haven't really quantified before, but we need to start figuring out how to better quantify those.
Yeah, and I think this is really important also why we need to get to a place where the inputs by market participants are able to be communicated to all the other market participants. So there's less, distortion in market and pricing signals, because, and I'll use this might trigger a few people, but just to prove the point, like, let's say that whatever human activity is doing is raising sea levels, and it's going to start encroaching on Miami in the next 10 years. Let's just hypothetically say that's the case. But what if the benefit of doing whatever we're doing that's causing that exceeds whatever cost that outcome has, right? So, I know we'd all like to not see Miami sink, but what if the reality was, like, we all agreed through our individual actions that whatever we netted as a result of our behavior was superior or more valuable to the consequences of that. That's kind of, the calculation that we always make. We just don't get to understand. We don't get a full picture. We don't get those signals right now because the market is so distorted and the money is so broken.
Yeah, we can't reach consensus, right? I mean, there's no mechanism because there's a lot of influence in the market, right? There's not purely just free market activity that then edges a result. There's a lot of influence that prevents certain results and forces others.
Yeah, and then on the practical side of things, like, I think what Steve was saying about the green people are going to come for this industry just as they have for the oil and gas industry. I mean, that certainly seems like it's a momentum that can't be stopped. So from the perspective of playing that game, using all the different arguments to make the point about Bitcoin not boiling the oceans I think are great from kind of a debate point of view, because we certainly don't seem to be in a time where logic and reason and rational discourse is what prevails in getting people to help shape people's opinions and public perception. So I'm all for it, and I'm all for all the narratives around that kind of stuff. But again, I just dawned on me recently that we're thinking about the FUDsters seem to be thinking about it from the wrong perspective, and then they just seem to be completely missing the metric by which to be judging how we as humans consume resources.
Yeah,
anyway,
I think
that's my spiel.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like John, when you just entered this conversation, you articulated a pretty rational argument, and I think we could all collectively be as rational, as reasonable as possible. And it's not going to go very far because we have decades of rational discourse, in the debate on fossil fuels, and it didn't go anywhere. And now, they're putting in these ridiculous regulations that are just like counterproductive. So I think I'm sort of a pessimist on it. Like, I don't think that, I think we can all talk until our throats are dry on the subject. Like, we're not really gonna, hopefully we'll buy some time, but I think that the regulations are going to be counterproductive that come to Bitcoin. But where I'm an optimist is that I don't think it matters. Like, I don't think none of these regulations will stop Bitcoin. None of them will make it less useful. If anything, it'll make it more useful because it's restricting the market even further and opening, another avenue for Bitcoin to be that arbitrage mechanism. Mining is inherently, it's relatively anonymous. It's, if you can mine covertly, I've always believed that, and one thing that I'm passionate about is building small Bitcoin mines that people can mine with covertly, like where no one really knows what they're up to. And that's why, sometimes, the media or Bitcoiners celebrate, like a big mining farm coming online in North America. And I just look at it like that's not doing anything for Bitcoin security, because that mine that, the biggest one of the biggest ones is that Windstone mine, that one that Riot just bought. It's 300 megawatts down in Texas. So yeah, you can clap, celebrate. That's great for North American decentralization. It does add some aspect to security and all that, but that mine is visible. That mine is going to be easily regulated, if not co-opted by the state. So it's Bitcoin's ability to resist I guess, co-option, like to disperse away from regulation, that's why I'm still optimistic. That's why I still invest in this space, because I don't believe a regulator, any regulator, can truly destroy it. I think they can certainly limit businesses like us who are going to be above board and play by the rules, but you do that to me and you put me out of business, our assets are going to disperse to people that'll do it under the table. And so that's why I think Bitcoin will survive. It'll just keep doing what it's doing. But I'm definitely pessimistic on the side that I don't think that, we can hold as many debates publicly, public discourse on and be rational about the whole thing. I'm sort of pessimistic that it's going to really do much in the long run, but I'm optimistic that Bitcoin, it doesn't matter.
So Steve, we got a very important question in the chat. I want to bring it in. The audience wants to know if Upstream is going to start selling mustache merch. I'm for it personally. So my 2 cents. Somebody else was also asking, where do I buy this beautiful Swan Force trucker hat? You can do that at Zazzle.com. Hold on, I'll just write it. Zazzle.com/Swan Bitcoin. Give me a second. We'll add it here for the folk at home.
Well, to answer the mustache merch, if anyone wants to be our merch rep and help us out with merch, absolutely, let's do it.
So TBD, you heard it there, folks. Reach out to Adam, reach out to Steve.
Yeah, hit me up with mustache merch ideas, and we'll vote on them in the Upstream team.
Oh, I love it. All right, we're coming up towards the end of the show, folks. We're gonna switch things up a little bit. Usually we interrupt everything and do 6 confirmations, which is our little news show. But I think we're gonna end on that. And so now it's time for my favorite part of the show, which we call. Oh, wait, let me switch it around. And let me switch this around. We call this Swan Force Fridays. I don't know why I went with the spooky voice today, but I went with the spooky voice today. So for our guests, I'm going to explain what this is real quick. And for anyone who hasn't seen the show before, basically we put our guests on the clock. We give them 60 seconds to give us their best Bitcoin pitch. Sometimes if they're on a roll, I'll give them a little more extra time. And the fun part about this is you get to choose who you're pitching. You could pitch the Prime Minister of Canada. You could pitch Christine Lagarde. You could pitch your mother. It doesn't matter. It can be funny. It can be serious. Maybe this time, we'll focus it on environmental regulators. Who knows? But it's up to the guests. So we will put them on the spot. 60 seconds. And who would like to go first? Any volunteers? Maybe Adam or John. Camilla and I both pointed at John. John,
do you have to use? I've played this game twice. Do you have to use the full minute? I can't remember.
No. You can use 10 seconds. You can do whatever you want.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Who are you going to pitch today?
I'm always bad at that part. I think I've always said I'm pitching everyone generally, but let's pitch.
Have you come across anyone lately who didn't respond well to the Bitcoin pitch and you wish you had a second chance?
Not many lately, man. People are I'm not interacting with a lot of non-Bitcoiners, and the secret is getting out. So let's just do a Times Square video thing to everybody instead of a particular person.
All right, I love it. So for the audience, you're in Times Square, you look up, and there's John Vallis. And what does he say?
Buy Bitcoin, your life depends on it. I know this makes no sense to you right now. I know you think I'm a crazy person, but things in this world, I know you can tell, are very, very broken right now. I know it's really hard to figure out why, but there is a beautiful community and culture of people emerging around ideas of freedom, sovereignty, independence, prosperity, and peace. And they are all doing so by buying Bitcoin, taking self-custody, and starting this new renaissance. You should be a part of it if you want to improve your life. Come and let's do it together.
Woo! That's
so good.
My golf club. Very nice, John. Thank you, sir. Inspiring as always. All right. Who's next? Don't make me pick people. Raise your hands.
Oh, you're gonna make us do it anyway, so I'll go next, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess I'll just pitch it to anyone, but no one in particular. One thing I don't like doing is
Steve, real quick, you know what you could do if you want? You could give the pitch that you give to oil and gas producers about why they should mine Bitcoin with their flare gas, if you want.
No, I don't really want to. I do that all day. Well, actually, like I get a lot of questions because as like me and Adam, right? Like as, sales guys, we do actually meet a lot of people that don't know anything about Bitcoin. So they do want us to understand it. And I'll be honest, like in our sales meetings, I don't get too detailed into Bitcoin. I just talk about our tech and how it can help them. But I guess you can start the clock. I'll just say that, like, for me, like when I'm pitching Bitcoin, I like to say, why. Like, I don't want to suggest why you're going to like it. I just explain why I like it because, value is subjective. What you like might not be what I like. So I usually get into why I like it. And that's sort of more about, I've never liked how money worked. I've never liked how there is this unelected body, this board of directors at, let's say, a central bank that gets to dictate how money is produced and then how it trickles down to society. I always thought it was a little unfair. Especially because, different political influences can, influence where the money goes, and it might not be right. There might be no rhyme and reason to it. And for me, money should be a bottom-up thing. So the thing about Bitcoin that I love is that anyone can produce it. Anybody. Like, you can turn your computer on, you can write it you can do it by hand if you wanted to do that for fun and hash by hand. And because it's a bottom-up money, it's sort of a money for the people. And for me, that's like the big thing. Like, I want fairness in society. Like, I want everyone to be on an even playing field. Bitcoin is the only system in which the pleb, like the person sitting at home in a diaper or whatever, can outperform a Wall Street exec on a return. So this to me is really, really sexy, really exciting. And that is sort of what I'd like to advocate for. It's a bottom-up money. You can get involved.
Boom. See, that wasn't so hard. You're good at it. That was good.
That was amazing. Bitcoin is sexy. I agree with that.
All right. Who is next? Mags or Adam? Raise a hand.
I'll go after Steve. I'll give a little bit of the oil and gas pitch, and in Steve's fashion, I'll talk about, why some of our oil and gas producers are happy that they're, Bitcoin miners now. So I mean, all day, every day, I talk with oil and gas producers. The large majority of them are older generation, boomer generation, and a large majority of them don't really have any understanding about Bitcoin. But for them, what they see is an amazing technology that allows them to bring energy to market. And they're not the only ones saying this. Anybody that's in the energy production space sees Bitcoin as this autonomous market they can sell energy to without any permission, right? It's a permissionless market at that. Like Steve mentioned, it's anybody can participate. But beyond that, a lot of these oil and gas producers, they face a lot of hardship, not just on the regulatory side, but in terms of their counterparty risk. And a lot of these guys are getting burned by the pipeline companies. There's a lot of environmental reasons why pipelines, can be not the best idea, but economics is the biggest driver of it. And what I think oil and gas producers are finding is that they now have an option other than a pipeline. And what that's going to do to the world is going to be such a net benefit. What it's going to do to how energy gets produced, everyone's going to win from it. And so the underlying asset of that phenomenon would be something I'd recommend holding.
Boom. Love it. Great pitch. I see why you hired this man. You should hire him again, Steve. All right, man. Last but certainly not least. Give him that man a raise. All right, Mags, who are you going to pitch today?
So I'm going to pitch Pierre Poilievre. He is the MP for Carleton, and he gave a very excellent, and I do encourage you guys to listen to 9 minute speech at on the budgetary policy. And so I am going to pitch him.
All right. In
Pierre,
3, 2, 1. Sorry.
It's okay. Pierre, you gave an impassionate speech on against monetary theory. You talked about how Canadians are facing significant inflation and how there is the largest wealth transfer is significantly happening from the have-nots to the have-yachts, because the have-yachts have hard assets. They have housing and stocks, and so your solution is to control spending and to restore the principle of sound money. Well, there isn't sounder money than Bitcoin. So I encourage you to investigate Bitcoin and the soundest money there is, because I think our interests are very much aligned.
Woo!
I love it. That's such a great person to pitch to. If he would, he has all of the mindset that he would be such a good promoter for Bitcoin. We got to get him in.
He would be an awesome advocate, but I fear he'd be a critic. I feel like there's guys out there that I thought would be awesome advocates, and then when they figure out Bitcoin, they criticize it. It killed me. So I'm so afraid of that too.
The best
Bitcoiners have been back channeling.
No?
Sorry, who's the best advocate?
I'm saying that some of the best advocates start off as critics because they want to know, okay, how is this broken? This seems too good to be true. What's wrong with it? And when they finally realize, no, not too good to be true, then they become our staunchest supporters. So
I think with Pierre, there's Bitcoiners in his ear. People are back channeling with Pierre. He gets it as far as I've been told. It's just that it's kind of politically sensitive how to talk about it and how to come out with it. So I think he's focusing on the battles that he knows are, the most able to push his cause forward and the ones that are most known and recognizable to Canadian voters and citizens. But you don't talk about sound money like that and not see Bitcoin, especially if you've got some quality Bitcoiners in your ears, which he does. So
yeah, I mean,
it's only a matter of time.
It would put a target on him. It would put an absolute target on him, and it would be a way in which for any of his critics to attack him and just obfuscate whatever he's trying to say. So it's probably a good move that he keeps it close to the chest.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure, but I'm still waiting though for our Canadian champion, right? We've got a few high up in government in the U.S., senators, and we've got the mayor of Miami. We've got the new mayor from where was it?
In Kentucky.
What has Justin Bieber not advocated for Bitcoin yet?
No, but I mean, in terms of government, because these, those that are in a position, for example, a mayor or a governor or a premier in Canada, right, or even a mayor from a smaller municipality, they have, I think in some ways, the smaller cities are more nimble to do things like, put their jury on Bitcoin. But from the perspective of let's attract investment and this industry, whether it's, a merger of oil and gas interests, in Alberta, or just a matter of these are going to be the next unicorns. Do you want them in your country? Do you want them in your province or state? Do you want them to be building here? So the fact that the mayor has been so aggressively trying to woo these companies, and it's been working. I mean, he just started, I think, in December, and look at how much momentum he's gained. And I'm still waiting for a Canadian one to kind of recognize and see the light and see that this is a big opportunity for their specific jurisdiction. And so far, no one's come to bat.
Well, we'll see what happens. People in the chat.
I'm Mayor of Calgary, Mags. I'll bring it.
Do it.
Mayor of Calgary?
Yeah, Mayor of Calgary. I'm running. No.
Yeah. We also need a Michael Saylor of the oil and gas energy industry to come out. So I've been kind of surprised that I haven't seen anybody at one of the the large oil and gas producers or just a large energy producer come out and be a champion of Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. I think there was some out of maybe Sweden. There was a company
which created CT.
Yeah, that's right. But there hasn't been one of the big belt buckles that usually walks around the oil and gas conferences. None of those guys have come out and even spoken a word about it. So I'm patiently waiting on them.
I spoke to Max Bernier in Canada. He's the leader of the People's Party of Canada, and you know, their ideas and his positions and stuff, I think, are very amenable to a lot of Bitcoiners probably, but he doesn't have a large, you know, the People's Party of Canada is a tiny party in Canada, basically doesn't have any sway whatsoever. But I kind of told him, I was like, look, Max, the zeitgeist of the times are not in your favor, right? Like Canada is very far down the socialist central planning sort of thing and not at all, you know, resonating with his message. So why don't you got nothing to lose. Why don't you come out and be like full on Bitcoin, espouse the principles of Bitcoin, promote Bitcoin, talk about Bitcoin. You're already on the sound money thing. And then maybe in a decade when the political winds change, you're the one who's been talking about it for 10 years. You're the one who's, you know, got all the cred. And obviously, you didn't think much of that the suggestion. So I haven't heard much from him.
We're all sitting here nodding along, like, yeah, it's a good idea. And obviously, he was like, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah. I sent him my copy of the Bitcoin Standard, though, and he says last time I spoke to him, he says he's almost finished reading it. So he had it for a year though before.
Still early.
Only halfway through it. You know.
Oh, so he's way early. Yeah, then it's, you know, he hasn't even slept on those ideas yet.
That's one of those books where like you're a third of the way through and you just can't put it down. You got to keep reading it. So,
but you also never go back.
I know.
You can never unknow, you know, how deep those messages resonate because it's so well articulated in day-to-day life that you can't ignore it, right? So you either have to willfully try to live ignorant for the rest of your life and still like think central banking is totally fine, or you have to change. It's like those are the only two options.
Well, here's the thing. Here's something you just can't ignore. Crypto ETFs are taking over Canada. Today, they accounted for 4 out of the top 11 most traded ETFs. So that's something financial legacy industry can't ignore, and at some point, politicians.
Yeah, that just tells me that's froth. I mean, that's crazy. The legacy markets are just getting wild.
It's primarily Bitcoin, but we've had 3 Ether ETFs launched, so that's why now crypto. But it's still really fascinating to see that they're completely taking over. And
Mags, we don't talk about that. No,
I know. But hey, I like to see these numbers.
Everybody becomes a Bitcoiner eventually. So, you know, all we had to do, it's just a matter of time.
So on that note, folks, I think it's time to bring this to a close. We have one more segment to do. Camilla, will you introduce it? Well, no, wait. Before we do that, I want to thank our guests. This was I had so much fun today. This was great. You all have a standing invite on Swan Lounge anytime. Always fun to talk about mining and FUD. I'm glad you laughed at all my shenanigans, so that gets you even more bonus points. You feel free to stick around and watch, or if you got a jet and go set up some data centers, go do that. Otherwise, we will see you again soon. Camilla, what are we?
Data center, or is it just because it's so big?
I was just.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I was just saying it's so funny that you're right. That is the case. That it's all the words people choose matter.
All right, Camilla, what do we got for the folks? Introduce what we're about to play.
So what we're about to play is just a new segment that we are doing where we break down some of the headlines of Bitcoin news this week. Some are bullish, some are not, some are hilarious, but it makes part of our Bitcoin story. So I hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. This was amazing. I feel like I could hear you guys talk about this all day long. And I really hope that I see some articles about this sometime soon, because it's great to have a conversation about it. But I feel like if there's a written piece that we can actually share with people about all of this energy FUD and discussion about what we can be hopeful for in the future, I feel like it would be super beneficial. So just throwing that out there for any of you guys to grab.
That's a great idea. I like it. Maybe if we find time sometime during this chaos to collaborate, we could all touch a piece of that and put it together.
I love that. We're going to be putting out some great mining related content in the next month or so. But so stay tuned for that. All right, everybody. Thank you again. What? Yeah, okay. Producers are telling me I'm supposed to shill Swan Bitcoin. Go to swanbitcoin.com, sign up, get $10 of free Bitcoin when you make an account. Remember, we're doing this contest for free tickets to Bitcoin 2021, and all you have to do is join Swan Force. So go to swanbitcoin.com/enlist. Enlist in the Swan Force. You'll get 25% of Swan's fees for 3 years, and anyone who signs up with your link will get $10 of Bitcoin. And if you refer one person and they have an active account by the end of the month, you're entered for a chance to win a free ticket to Bitcoin 2021, which has a face value of $1,300. And you can either go to the conference, which we recommend, or you can sell it for Bitcoin, which we also recommend. All right, folks.
I just want to say, hopefully Miami doesn't sink by then.
Me too, for the record.
Yeah, if it sinks, we're getting refunds, David Bailey. We're getting refunds. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, cheers, Breggy. This was fun. Thanks, man.
See you guys.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.
What is up, you guys? It is your Swan, Camilla, and I'm here to break down this week's 6 confirmations, where we are going to break down some of the biggest headlines of Bitcoin this week, starting with confirmation number 1. Venmo users can now buy and sell Bitcoin. Earlier this week, PayPal's Venmo released a new feature that lets users invest in Bitcoin and in 3 other cryptocurrencies, with a minimum spending requirement of $1. PayPal, the owner of Venmo, has been ramping up its investments in crypto. Last month, the payments giant said it had agreed to buy Curry, a startup that helps clients store their digital tokens securely. That being said, though, you're still currently unable to withdraw your coins from both PayPal and Venmo, meaning that the Bitcoin you purchase is technically not yours. And as we all know, if it's not your keys, it is not your coin. And this is why it is so important to be able to take your coins out of an exchange, because confirmation number 2, Turkish Bitcoin and crypto exchange goes bust as founder flees the country. One of Turkey's largest cryptocurrency exchanges, Sudock, said it lacked the financial strength to continue operations, leaving hundreds of thousands of investors fearing their savings have evaporated as authorities sought to locate the company's 27-year-old founder who fled the country. Before shutting down transactions, Sudock was trading more than 585 million in cryptocurrencies on its exchange. The exchange also had about 400,000 users, 390,000 of whom were trading actively. This is still a developing story that continues to teach us all of the valuable lessons of the importance of taking custody of your own coins. But on to more bullish news. Confirmation number 3, Square makes the case for clean energy Bitcoin. In a white paper released yesterday, financial services company Square outlines the opportunity that Bitcoin presents to facilitate a transition to a cleaner and more resilient electricity grid. The research report titled "Bitcoin is Key to an Abundant Clean Energy Future" was released as part of Square's Bitcoin Clean Energy Initiative, an ongoing effort to support companies working to integrate green energy technologies within Bitcoin mining. The Bitcoin and energy markets are converging, and we believe the energy asset owners of today will likely become the miners of tomorrow, the paper reads. Utility executives, sustainable infrastructure funds, and grid-scale storage developers are well positioned to expedite this future by aligning their strategic roadmap and developing large-scale investments into the emerging synergy between Bitcoin mining and clean energy production. Confirmation number 4, Guggenheim's Scott Menard warns Bitcoin could plunge 50% near term. Scott's remarks earlier this week were that Bitcoin is very frothy and could see a major correction in the near term. I think we could pull back to 20,000 to 30,000 on Bitcoin, which would be a 50% decline, he said. However, Menard said he remains bullish over the long run, predicting an eventual rise to $400,000 to $600,000. Many believe that Scott is just trying to spread FUD so that people sell their Bitcoin, giving Menard the opportunity to fill his pockets with more corn at a cheaper price. Well, you aren't the only one taking advantage of this dip, Scott. The plebs are also here, smashing that buy button. Confirmation number 5, Bitcoin's ETFs get a fresh look under Gensler, SEC's peers. It is becoming more clear that incoming Securities and Exchange Chairman Gary Gensler will be bullish for Bitcoin in what will mark a reversal from the Commission's current stance. I'm hopeful that with a new chairman here at the SEC that we will be able to take a fresh look at some of the reasoning that we used to deny Bitcoin exchange-traded products in the past, said SEC Commissioner Hester Pierce. There are just 2 applications for Bitcoin ETFs sitting at the SEC for review and potential approval, WisdomTree and Bannock. Additionally, Gensler, who taught a class called Blockchain and Money during his tenure at MIT, is believed to have a better understanding of cryptocurrencies than prior SEC chairs, making it super bullish that we will probably see a Bitcoin ETF very soon. Confirmation number 6, Mayor Scott Conger of Tennessee. Although there's nothing particularly cypherpunk about the city of Jackson, Tennessee, Mayor Scott Conger realizes that it can benefit from embracing Bitcoin nonetheless. We are already offering our employees a deferred compensation opportunity for their retirement, Conger explained in a recent interview, comparing the wealth protection potential of Bitcoin to more traditional forms of savings. Those options are great, but we need to expand our options for our employees to utilize dollar cost averaging to increase and enhance their portfolios. Conger is also looking into the possibility of mining Bitcoin to add the asset to Jackson's balance sheet. Currently, his team is assessing the initial investment and energy costs, but he seems optimistic about the potential. And there you have it, guys. That was this week's 6 confirmations. I'll see you in the next one.
There you have it, folks. That's the end of our show. It's the end of our show. Tune in next week for another Swan Lounge. We've got some great guests lined up. I'm not going to tell you who they are. Actually, I'll tell you who they are. We've got American Hodl scheduled. We've got CK Snarks. And I think I can say this one. We've got Michaela Peterson, and we're going to have some other guests. It's going to be great. But I still see that there are, let's see, about 50 people watching. Have you all signed up for Swan Force yet? Go to swanbitcoin.com/enlist and get paid to recruit new Bitcoiners. Join the Swan Force. And if you're going to Bitcoin 2021, let us know. Tweet at us on Twitter. We are at Swan Bitcoin. We're going to be there. We're going to have a giant dome. It's going to be a big geodesic dome. It's going to have a window in the back. We're going to have a full-on recording area in there. We're going to be doing media the entire time. We're going to have some incredible guests. We might do some book signings with some amazing Bitcoin authors. We're going to do some fun sing-alongs, sea shanty sing-alongs. Brady is really excited for that. I sing in my shower, so I'm pretty excited for that too. But we're not going to have a shower, so we'll see how that works out. It's going to be a blast. So if you're going to Miami, let us know. And if you're in Swan Force, you get this chance to win tickets. It's going to be great. Okay, you can get tickets and go to the conference, or you can sell the tickets for Bitcoin, whatever. Up to you, but we're going to be there, and we hope to see you there. So let us know. Let us know in Telegram. Let us know on Twitter. We're going to have swag bags for everyone who's in Swan Force, which is going to be a lot of fun. Maybe you'll get a hat like this one. And, yeah, we'll see you next time, folks. It's been great. It's been a great Friday. Go buy the dip. Enjoy your weekends. Hug someone you love. I don't know. Go to the beach. Go skiing. Do something. Have a barbecue. That's all, folks. That's all I got. We'll see you next time.